Well, hello, and welcome to our first on-demand tasting. We hope you can use this video as an opportunity to learn a little bit about the wines, either while tasting them with us, or a little bit before you open them to see when and where you want to enjoy these bottles of wine. So today we are going to be tasting through our 50-year edition 2017 Isabel Sparkling Wine. And then our beautifully etched special Magnum, you either received a 2015 vintage if you had this wine shipped to you, or a 2016 vintage if you're going to be picking it up in one of our tasting rooms. If you are a Reserve Club member who gets either 6 or 12 bottles, that's a lot of wine, a lot of good wine, you are also going to get first dibs on our 2017 Claret, which will be the newest released wine. So how we're going to break this down today is we are going to start with the 2017 Isabel Sparkling, taste through it. We've got a little bit of facts here to walk you through that wine. And then we are going to do almost like a vertical tasting of the 15, 16, 17 Claret. So no matter which one was in your shipment, you can learn a little bit about the wine, the breakdown, and a little bit of some information on those wines. So today, because I'm not the expert, I brought the expert with me, Miss Marta. She is a wine educator, winemaker. And if we're going to be talking facts about these wines, why not bring in the person who made them, right? So I think we are ready to get started, and let's go ahead and get started. Always happy to start my day with some bubbles. This is our 2017 Isabel Sparkling.
Okay. So this is our 2017 vintage of our Isabel, and this was 44% Pinot Noir and 56% Chardonnay. And this was the first year that we brought in fruit from the Isabel vineyard. And we were really excited about this. And we harvested this in August of 2017. And it's usually some of the first grapes that come into the winery, especially because we're making sparkling wine. And it's really a great way to start off the harvest season.
If you guys wait around till the 2020 vintage comes out, you'll know that my hands were in that one.
Oh, goody.
So I'm waiting for that one. Okay, so give us a little bit of information on what goes into making this wine.
So these grapes were hand harvested, and then the whole clusters were gently pressed. And we want to press it very gently to avoid any excess color. And we essentially want free run for this.
Okay.
Then the juice is cold settled and racked, and then each varietal is fermented separately. After the primary fermentation is finished, then we'll decide on what the blend is going to be for the cuvee.
And what exactly goes into making a decision on what the blend will be?
Taste.
Oh, okay.
Taste.
All right.
It's all done by taste to determine the percentage of each variety.
Tough job they have over here, right?
I know, it's rough.
Okay, so this is what we would call a traditional method. Can you explain a little bit about what that means?
So the traditional method is called method champenoise, and that means that the secondary fermentation takes place in the bottle. So after we decide on the blend, what we do is we put the blend together, and then we bottle it in a bottle with a little bit of sugar and some special yeast that that will tolerate high pressure and some alcohol. And then we bottle it with a crown cap, kind of like a beer bottle cap. And then inside the bottle, the yeast starts to consume the sugar that's in the bottle, and it produces CO2 like a normal fermentation, but there's nowhere for the CO2 to go. So it becomes dissolved within the wine. The bottles are then stored at Scheid for roughly 3 years traditionally, and they're stored on the lees, or essentially the dead yeast cells.
And those lees are what's going to give us those kind of autolytic flavors, right? The brioche kind of toasty characteristics
Absolutely.
to it, which for those of you who aren't familiar, that's what's going to kind of set this apart over a lot of the wines that you would find in a grocery store if you're going to get some bubbles, right?
That's correct. And then when this wine is ready for market, it goes through a process called riddling. And that's where you essentially take the bottles and they're slowly tipped upside down. So all the sediment, any dead yeast cell, would fall into the neck of the bottle. Then they freeze the neck of the bottle. They use liquid nitrogen for this. And then when they flip the bottle right side up and pop the crown cap off, the pressure inside the bottle pushes that plug of sediment out. Then they would top the bottle up with the same wine, and then it would be sealed with this traditional wire hood and this cork.
Okay, and Marta was nice enough to bring in for us a little bit of a large sample here. So it looks like a traditional cork when you put it in, and I think a lot of people don't realize that this mushroom shape that you get isn't what it starts out like, right?
That's right. That's because you've got this part of the cork sticking out of the bottle.
Yeah, so starts like this, moves on to this. What would you say is the biggest difference between this traditional method that we make with our sparkling and something that you would find in a grocery store?
Well, there are several ways to make a sparkling wine, and what I just described was method champenoise. But there is another way to make sparkling wine, and that's called the Charmat process. And this involves the secondary fermentation taking place inside a pressurized stainless steel tank instead of taking place inside a bottle. And the biggest difference that you'll get is that you don't get a lot of those yeasty brioche type of characteristics because it didn't age on the leaves.
Okay.
Also, the bubbles will be much larger in a Charmat process.
Okay, so I think it's really good to get a little bit of clarification on that when people try this, because it has that smaller, more delicate bubble, right? Mm-hmm. And you get those kind of toasty brioche notes that people may not be super familiar with. Let's go ahead, now that we understand a little bit about how much effort and labor of love goes into making this, right? What are the tasting notes and some descriptors you would give for this?
Well, I get quite a bit of citrus, some green pear, and there's also some red currants from the Pinot Noir, I would imagine, and then you get that brioche character from the yeast. It's really lovely. There are also some really beautiful floral notes. It's got crisp acidity, bright fruit in the mouth, and some mineral notes as well. And then on the palate, it's just a really lingering, creamy finish.
Yeah, it's one of my favorites. So I think in general, sparkling really lends itself to all sorts of different food pairing options. But for me, with the acidity, I like this with something super salty, crunchy. I'm gonna go for French fries, just some potato chips, right? Super simple. Or if I'm gonna serve a nice charcuterie board with some fruits and cheeses and salty crackers, this always makes an appearance. And I think with this holiday season coming upon us, we will be opening more than one bottles of this as we start our celebration. So right. What about you?
Well, I'm with you on that for the holiday season. So I, for one, think sparkling can be served at almost any occasion. The sparkling wine, because of this crisp acidity, I think it would pair with richer foods, think lobster, and even those creamy cheeses. But I agree with Chelsea. I think that anything salty also pairs well, because the salt really helps balance out this acidity.
Salt's just great in general. And we filmed a video for our estate members, and we were talking, I believe, about our Gewürztraminer, but Marta called it a breakfast wine. And I do say, to me, this is my breakfast wine. So this, I don't even need the OJ. Cheers to that, right? So I think this one, any time of the day can be served, and I won't judge you, okay? All right, awesome. One more smell of that. We are going to move on now to the claret. And again, we're going to be tasting the 15 vintage, the 16 vintage, and the 17 vintage. Yes. But let's start off with talking a little bit about the name claret and where that comes from.
So back in the 14th and 15th century in Bordeaux, a lot of the wines there were really very light in color, almost like a rosé. They didn't ferment them that long on the skins, so they didn't have a lot of skin contact time, so they didn't darken up. The word claret comes from the Latin word, and it means clear or pale. But now that term is pretty much used for any Bordeaux variety that's made with the traditional Bordeaux variety, Bordeaux blends of Cabernet Sauvignon, Merlot, Cabernet Franc, Petit Verdot, and Malbec.
Okay, awesome. So Chiat has been making this Bordeaux style blend since 2005, and we've been calling it claret. That's the name for it. But why don't we see this term being used very often? If you go to the grocery store, I'm not really finding a lot of claret blends.
No. So in 2006, the wine laws changed in the United States, and the wine labeling laws for all what they called semi-generic wines. And these are wines that included European wine, European wine regions, or names such as Burgundy or Port, and claret was one of them. But so when they changed the labeling laws, we had already been using the term claret, and so we were grandfathered in. And the varietals change that we use in this blend from year to year, but it's always just based on taste, the best barrels that we have.
Again, the tough job of having to taste through the blends to
Somebody
decide
has to
what's
do it.
best. Okay. Let's talk a little bit about the aging program for all these different vintages.
Well, all of our clarets have been aged for roughly 30 months, and it's usually a mix of French oak, American oak, and Hungarian oak. And again, we really just decide the very best barrels, and that's what we're keeping, and that's what we're putting in our claret blend.
Okay, so it is the aging that is going to be consistent year to year.
Yes.
It's more the blend that's going to change based on the vintage and kind of what we got that year. Okay, cool. So what I poured for us is the 2015 claret, which you got in a beautiful magnum if this was shipped to you. Unfortunately, they did not give me and Marta the option of just opening a magnum for this tasting today. So we had a scouch for a smaller bottle, but let's start with what the percentage, the makeup of this one is.
So this one is made of 38% Cabernet Sauvignon, 24% Merlot, 15% Malbec, 15% Cabernet Franc, and 8% Petit Verdot.
Okay, so now we know what the blend is, and we've discussed what the aging is on this. Let's talk descriptors.
Oh, a lot of lovely black fruit.
Yeah.
Some blueberries, some blackberries, a little bit of raspberries, as well as some dried herbs. And then you get the aromas from the barrels as well. The vanilla, the mocha, the hazelnuts.
Getting that.
This wine is really soft right now. The tannins are very well integrated, and I get quite a lot of red fruit on the palate too. And then just this long, lingering sweet oak finish.
Yeah, there's definitely a reason that this blend we do consistently is a fan favorite, especially in the tasting room.
Yep.
So whether or not they received the 15 or the 16 vintage, the percentage might be a little bit different, but they're going to be in a magnum. And what is the difference between a 750, like the one we have here, and these magnums, which are a little bit bigger, besides the fact that it makes a beautiful centerpiece?
Well, I know some of you look at a magnum and you go, wow, I'll never have a chance to open a bottle that big.
Not me. I don't have that problem, but okay, sure, I guess some people do. Okay.
So just to put it into perspective, a normal wine bottle holds 5 glasses of wine. A magnum is only 2 bottles, so that's 10 glasses of wine. So if 4 people are having dinner, that's only 2.5 glasses apiece. So over a course of a meal, that's really not that much. And the great thing about magnums is that they age so well. It's all about the surface to volume ratio, the volume of the cork, and the surface area of the cork and the volume of the wine, and how much oxygen is ultimately getting into the bottle. So magnums age much more slowly than a 750 would.
Okay, so we can definitely hold on to them a little longer. Not that I would be opening it right away. And again, guys, man up and open that magnum. Okay, you can do it. I promise. Okay, perfect. So that was the 2015. Absolutely delicious. Let's go ahead and we are going to move on to the 2016. And if you received a Magnum that you picked up in either the Carmel or Greenfield tasting room, you received this vintage in your beautiful Magnum. So let's talk about what it's comprised of.
So the 2016 is a blend of 39% Cabernet Sauvignon, 27% Petit Verdot, 18% Merlot, and 16% Cabernet Franc.
Delicious smelling again. So again, similar aging, 30 months in all three of those oaks we talked about. What are the tasting notes on this vintage with the blend being slightly different?
Yeah, just slightly different blend, and I get a lot of black fruit, the blackberries, plum, elderberries, along with some really beautiful barrel notes, the vanilla, chocolate. I suppose I get a little bit of hint of tarragon or fresh mint, some fresh herb. Really beautiful soft tannins on this one too. But there's still a lot of structure here that will help this wine age. Rich black fruit, long, lovely toasty oak finish.
I have a feeling I won't be pouring this wine in the tasting room. I think Marta might be taking these bottles home with her.
Absolutely. Give it a chance.
Awesome. Yeah, I mean, every single vintage is absolutely fantastic in its own way. It's like you always say, having children, you definitely can't pick a favorite when it comes to these.
That's right.
Okay, perfect. So one more, and again, this is now going to be the 2017. So this would only be in your shipment if you're a 6-bottle or 12-bottle Reserve Club member. However, this one is exclusive to club members only, no matter what style wine choices you make. So you can go online and buy this, purchase it in the tasting room, give us a call. But this one is our 2017 vintage. All right, what is this vintage made of?
So this one is a little bit different again, just like all the vintages. It's 53% Cabernet Sauvignon, 21% Petit Verdot, 13% Cabernet Franc, and 13% Merlot.
Tasting notes, descriptors, what do we
Again, lots of black fruit, and sadly there are only so many black fruit descriptors that there are out there. And so blackberries, that elderberries, plums, and some dried cherries, notes of vanilla and mocha, smoky oak. Also really soft integrated tannins, but you can tell that this wine is a little bit younger, just due to the brightness of the oak fruit. I get some red fruit on the finish, and then that sweet lingering the oak. It's just beautiful.
She just gets tongue-tied when she drinks this.
I know.
Okay, awesome. So again, even though they're all a teeny bit different, they're very, very similar. They're very comparable. They all have their own little attributes that make them absolutely fantastic. But I think if we were going to talk about food pairing options, we can, across the board, 15, 16, or 17, probably say that food pairing options would be pretty similar. So what are some food pairing options you would provide if someone was to crack open any of these vintages?
Well, since this claret is a blend of Bordeaux varieties, I think you need to think about what it would be like with a full-bodied Cabernet. And it's just really something structured and really distinct, very beautiful tannins, the dark fruit, and I think it would pair really well with fatty foods, such as a piece of prime rib or some pasta with a rich cream sauce even, and those gooey cheeses.
Yeah, I'm all about the gooey cheeses.
Anything grilled too,
Yeah.
I think would be good.
Oh yeah, absolutely. I'm not gonna lie, this is also one that I have enjoyed with, I like to say air, with a little bit of
air, oh, I like that.
Yeah, so this is one that
air or your porch.
Or my porch. Some fresh air or some inside air, depending on the weather. But yeah, this one is, like she said, and she mentioned, I think, through all three of them, those tannins are soft. It's not super grippy, so you don't necessarily need to pair this with food. I think it's fantastic on its own. In the tasting room, when we pour this, usually the newest vintage, we talk about how well this wine can age. So what would you age this? Obviously we would drink it now, but can you hold on to this wine? Will it change over time?
So these are absolutely ready to drink now. However, when we talk about wine and how it ages, you have to kind of talk about the differences in the aromas. And first off, there's the primary aromas, which are what you get from the grapes, all that bright black fruit. And then you get what's from the winemaker's hand, which is the barrels, the oak, the vanilla, all those wonderful sweet toasty oak aromas. And then there's the tertiary aromas, and tertiary aromas are what develop in the bottle and has often been called bottle bouquet. Now, as the wine ages, what happens is those primary aromas, those bright fruit aromas, fade to the background, and some of those tertiary aromas kind of come to the forefront. And so, although you still get a lot of that black fruit, you start to develop other aromas, such as a sweet tobacco or cigar box, and these are things that I know they might sound kind of odd, like, oh, gee, where did you get that cigar box in that wine? But it's just something how the wine develops over time, and these are terms that winemakers use to describe the wine. But I think all of these clarets could easily outlive me.
Oh, well, let's not do that. We'll go ahead and we'll drink through all your clarets.
There we go.
Okay, I'll come over and help with that. Not a problem. Yeah. Awesome. Okay, so I have to say it was a little tricky for even me and Marta to get 3 bottles of the 15, 16, and 17. We had to do some begging. And then when we got to taste through all 3 side by side as what we would call a vertical, it was kind of a gift. It was really a super special experience to taste them year to year, see the differences, the similarities. And so we did some more begging. And we were able, with the people above, to open up about less than 10 bundles that will be available only to club members that have the 15, 16, and 17 claret for purchase as a bundle. So I think whether it's the collector in your life or you are the collector in your life, and you don't need to be a collector, just a drinker of good wine, this is absolutely a super special experience. We did it, we enjoyed it
for you.
And you're welcome. So definitely go ahead and I believe it should be on the website, or you can give us a call in the tasting room, reach out to Wine Club. But that does it for us in terms of the November release for you guys. If you have any questions, as always, we love hearing from you. We love answering your questions, getting your feedback. So feel free to give us a call, reach out to the Wine Club. But other than that, I think you guys have some delicious offerings, and hopefully this helped you get a better understanding of when and where you want to open some of these wines.
Cheers.
Cheers, everybody.